All the apostles of Jesus suffered greatly, and almost all of them died as martyrs. But one disciple's story is different. His name was John, the beloved disciple. He was the last surviving apostle, the one who leaned on Jesus' chest at the Last Supper, the one who wrote the Gospel of John, 3 letters, and the book of Revelation. Today we'll uncover the life, ministry, and final years of John, and the prophetic lessons his story carries for us, the church today. John the disciple. John was the younger brother of James, sons of Zebedee, whom Jesus called the sons of thunder. Though fiery in nature, John grew into the apostle of love. Scripture shows his closeness to Jesus. At the Last Supper, John leaned on Christ's chest, John 13:23. At the crucifixion, when all others fled, John stood by the cross with Mary. Jesus entrusted his mother to John's care, saying, "Behold your mother," John 19:27. This reveals John's tender heart and deep trust from the Lord. Listen, true discipleship is found in intimacy with Christ, not just activity for him. John the evangelist and leader. After Pentecost, John became a leading figure in the early church. Acts 3 shows him with Peter healing the lame man at the temple gate. Together they stood before the Sanhedrin, boldly declaring, "We cannot help speaking about what we have seen and heard." Acts 4:20. Later, John ministered to the churches across Asia Minor, especially in Ephesus. Early church tradition describes him as a spiritual father, guiding the flock with gentleness, but also bold authority. God calls us not only to power, but also to pastoral love, John's suffering. Though John was not martyred, he suffered greatly for the name of Christ. Tertullian, an early church father, records a tradition that John was once plunged into boiling oil in Rome, but miraculously he survived. Instead of silencing him, it only magnified his testimony. Unable to kill him, the authorities exiled John to the barren island of Patmos in the Aegean Sea, a place of punishment for criminals and enemies of the state. Yet it was there, in isolation, that John received one of the greatest revelations ever given. What the enemy means for isolation, God turns into revelation. The revelation on the island of Patmos. On Patmos, John encountered the risen, glorified Christ. Revelation 1:17 records, "When I saw him, I fell at his feet as though dead. Then he placed his right hand on me and said, 'Do not be afraid. I am the first and the last.'" There John received visions of heaven, of the Lamb who was slain, of the final victory over evil, and of the New Jerusalem. The book of Revelation became not only a prophecy for the early church, but also a guide for the church throughout history. The greatest visions often come in the darkest valleys, John's final years. After his exile ended, John returned to Ephesus, where he continued to minister until old age. Tradition tells us he lived to be over 90 years old, making him the only apostle to die a natural death. In his final days, too weak to preach long sermons, John was carried into the gatherings of believers. His constant message was short and simple. "Little children, love one another." When asked why he always repeated the same words, John replied, "Because it is the Lord's command, and if this alone is done, it is enough." At the end of life, love remains the greatest command, John's death. Around AD 95 to 100, John passed away peacefully in Ephesus. Unlike his brothers who died by the sword, John's death was quiet, but his life left a thunderous impact that continues to echo through the centuries. The life of John teaches us powerful lessons. 1. Intimacy with Christ is the foundation of true discipleship. 2. Trials cannot silence a life surrendered to God. 3. God turns exile into revelation. 4. Above all, love never fails. Though John was the last disciple alive, he was never truly alone, for Christ was with him, and his writings continue to strengthen the church today. So, what part of John's story inspires you most? Comment below, share this video, and subscribe for more Bible stories, prayers, and encouragement.